The Prophecy's awakening. The wind whispered through the ruins of the ancient alien city, its voice a soft murmur in the quiet night. This place, long forgotten by most, had once been the heart of a great civilization. Now it stood as a relic of a time long past. The alien species who had built these towering structures were gone, their legacy reduced to fragments of ancient texts and faded murals. But those who knew the truth understood that the ruins held far more than history. They held a secret, a prophecy. And in the far reaches of the galaxy, in a small, unremarkable corner of space, it was about to come true. The prophecy had been passed down for generations, and the alien elders spoke of it in hushed tones. A hero would rise from the stars. This hero would be the one to claim the sacred sword, a powerful weapon that had been hidden away for centuries. The sword was said to hold unimaginable power, capable of either saving the galaxy or destroying it. Its energy was too great for any one species to control, and so it had been sealed away in a distant world. The aliens believed that their own kind, with their wisdom and strength, would be the ones chosen by the prophecy. They were the advanced beings of the galaxy. After all, surely the sword would recognize one of their own. They had waited, watched, and prepared for this moment, certain that it was only a matter of time before the hero would emerge from among them. But they were wrong. Far from the alien worlds, on a planet called Earth, a man named Alex lived a simple, ordinary life. He wasn't special, at least not in the ways that most people would consider extraordinary. He worked as a mechanic, fixing engines and repairing machines for a living. His days were filled with the familiar rhythm of labor, and his nights were spent in quiet solitude. There was nothing about him that would suggest he was destined for greatness. But the universe had its own plans. One night, as Alex worked late in his garage, he felt a strange shiver run down his spine. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as if something unseen was watching him. It wasn't a feeling he could shake off easily. His eyes darted around the room, searching for anything out of place, but everything seemed normal. Still, the sensation of being watched grew stronger. Without warning, the lights in the garage flickered and then went out completely. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex's heart began to race, his instincts telling him to get out, but his feet felt rooted to the ground. Then, without any explanation, the world around him seemed to warp. The air grew thick with energy, and a strange hum filled the room. Alex's breath caught in his throat as the walls of his garage seemed to fade away, replaced by an endless expanse of stars and swirling light. He looked around in confusion, trying to make sense of what was happening. Suddenly, a figure appeared before him. It was an alien, tall and ethereal, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Its eyes, bright and ancient, gazed into Alex's soul as if it had known him for eons. The creature spoke, but its voice wasn't heard with ears. It was felt deep within his mind. Alex, the being said, its voice like a soft breeze. "You are the one, you are the hero foretold by the prophecy." Alex blinked, unable to process what he was hearing. Hero, prophecy, it made no sense. "Wait," Alex stammered, stepping back. "What do you mean I'm the hero? I'm just a mechanic. I don't know anything about prophecies or anything like that." The alien being regarded him silently for a moment before speaking again. "The sacred sword must be freed," it said. "It has been locked away for millennia, its power hidden from all who would misuse it. Only the one chosen by the stars can unlock its power. And you, Alex, are that one." Alex felt his knees grow weak. This was insane. How could he be the one? He was just an ordinary man. There had to be some mistake. "You have been brought here because the sword recognizes you. Your soul has been marked by the prophecy. The galaxies will fall into chaos unless you rise to your destiny," the alien explained, its voice unwavering. "But why me?" Alex whispered, his mind racing. "I'm not special. I don't know how to fight. I can't even." "You do not need to fight with strength alone," the alien interrupted gently. "The sword's power is not just physical. It is a force that can only be wielded by one who understands the true nature of balance. You must learn to control it, or it will control you." The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and unyielding. Alex swallowed hard. His mind was a whirl of confusion and disbelief. He had never asked for any of this. He had never wanted to be a hero. But here, standing in the middle of this impossible situation, he knew there was no turning back. The alien's eyes softened, and a small, almost reassuring smile tugged at its lips. "Your journey will be difficult. There will be trials, both external and internal, but you are the key. The universe has chosen you, Alex." Before Alex could respond, The vision before him began to fade, and the alien being vanished into thin air. The world around him returned to its usual quiet state. The garage lights flickered back on, and the hum of the universe disappeared, leaving behind only silence. Alex stood there frozen, trying to make sense of everything that had just happened. Had he imagined it? Had it all been some kind of dream? But the feeling of power still lingered in the air, a reminder that something larger than himself was at work. The prophecy had awakened, and somehow he was part of it. As Alex stood alone in the garage, staring at the spot where the alien had vanished, he realized one undeniable truth. His life had just changed forever. There was no going back. He had been chosen. The sword, the power, and the fate of the galaxy all rested on his shoulders. And whether he was ready or not, he was about to embark on a journey that would take him far beyond anything he could have ever imagined. The hero was here. The unlikely summit. Alex's world had been turned upside down. Just hours ago, he had been a simple mechanic, working under the dim light of his garage, trying to make ends meet. Now he stood in the middle of a cosmic mystery, with the weight of an entire galaxy resting on his shoulders. As if on cue, the reality around him seemed to warp once again. The sensation of disorientation hit him like a tidal wave. His body felt as if it were being pulled apart, stretched across 1,000 different dimensions. He staggered, reaching out for something to hold on to, but everything slipped through his fingers like sand. His thoughts were clouded, but one thing remained clear. He was no longer on Earth. With a sudden jolt, everything stopped. The blinding light, the dizzying sensation, it all vanished. Alex blinked, his surroundings slowly coming into focus. He was no longer in his garage, but in a place he couldn't even begin to comprehend. The air was thick with energy, vibrating with an otherworldly hum. Before him stood a vast landscape, unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering structures made of smooth, gleaming materials stretched towards a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. The ground beneath his feet was made of a strange crystalline substance that seemed to glow softly. "Where am I?" Alex muttered under his breath, his voice barely audible in the silence of this alien world. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind, calm yet filled with an undeniable authority. "You are in the realm of the prophecy, the place where destinies are forged, and the future of the galaxy is decided." Alex spun around, his heart racing. A figure shimmering with light appeared before him. It was not the alien from before, but something more ancient. The being was tall, humanoid, with a translucent skin that seemed to pulse with energy. Its eyes, glowing with an intense blue light, locked onto Alex. "Who are you?" Alex asked, his voice trembling with both fear and awe. "I am a guardian of the prophecy," the figure said, its voice resonating in Alex's mind. "I am here to guide you." Alex took a step back, still reeling from the enormity of what was happening. "A guide? What do you mean? I'm just a mechanic. I don't belong here." The Guardian's gaze softened, but its expression remained unreadable. "You are mistaken. The prophecy chose you because you are more than you think. The power of the sacred sword is not something that can be unlocked by strength alone. It requires balance, understanding, and the will to make the right choices. You have been chosen not because of your strength, but because of your heart." Alex blinked, trying to process the words. "But I'm just one person. I don't even know where to start." The Guardian raised a hand, and the air around Alex seemed to shift, forming a holographic display. On it, images of ancient texts, alien symbols, and strange creatures flashed before his eyes. It was the prophecy itself, centuries of history, culture, and wisdom laid out before him. "The sword's power is vast," the Guardian continued. "Many have tried to claim it, but none have been worthy. The prophecy is clear. The hero will not be someone who desires power, but someone who understands the consequences of using it." Alex watched the display, a deep sense of foreboding settling over him. "And I'm supposed to understand this," he gestured to the hologram. "How can I possibly?" "You will learn," the Guardian interrupted. "But it will not be easy. The sword's power is not just a weapon. It is a force that binds all living things. It can create life or it can end it. It is a mirror reflecting the true nature of its wielder. What you choose to do with its power will shape the future of the galaxy." Alex swallowed, feeling the weight of those words pressing down on him. He had no experience with anything like this. He was just an ordinary man who had no idea what to do with such immense responsibility. Yet, something deep inside him stirred. A sense of determination began to grow, despite the uncertainty. "I don't know if I can do this," Alex said almost to himself. I'm not a hero. The Guardian smiled, its form flickering with a soft light. The prophecy does not choose the strongest nor the most skilled. It chooses those who can learn, those who can adapt. You will not face this alone. You will have allies, and you will find the strength within yourself when you need it most. Before Alex could respond, the Guardian gestured towards a massive structure in the distance, a towering temple that seemed to pulse with energy. At its base stood an enormous stone door, etched with the same symbols that had appeared on the hologram. Your journey begins there, the Guardian said, pointing to the temple. The first trial awaits you. Only those who are truly worthy can enter. It will test your resolve, your heart, and your mind. If you succeed, the sword will recognize you. If you fail, the Guardian's voice trailed off. Alex knew what it meant. Failure here would not just be a personal defeat, it would mean the galaxy's doom. With a deep breath, Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no choice now. The prophecy had chosen him, and there was no turning back. As he made his way towards the temple, the ground beneath him seemed to shift, guiding his path forward. The air grew heavier with each step, filled with the energy of 1,000 forgotten civilizations. The temple loomed closer, its massive door opening as if it had been waiting for him all along. Alex's journey had just begun. And as the door creaked open, he couldn't shake the feeling that the prophecy was not just about the sword. It was about something much bigger, something that would change not just his fate, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The test was about to begin. The alien trial. Alex stepped into the temple, his heart pounding in his chest. The door closed behind him with an eerie thud, cutting off his connection to the outside world. The atmosphere inside was thick with an ancient energy, and the walls seemed to hum with a life of their own. The air was cool, yet every breath felt charged, as if the very atmosphere itself was alive. The chamber stretched out before him, filled with intricate carvings and strange symbols that shifted when he looked at them. The floor beneath his feet was smooth, made from dark, polished stone. The ceiling arched high above, lost in shadow, as if the temple had no end. It was both magnificent and terrifying, a place of great power, but one that seemed to hold ancient secrets that no one had dared to unravel for eons. As Alex took cautious steps forward, a voice echoed around him, deep and resonant, though it seemed to come from every direction at once. Welcome, Chosen One. Alex froze, his breath catching in his throat. He wasn't sure where the voice was coming from, but it felt as though it was speaking directly into his mind. His eyes darted around the chamber, but there was no one in sight. You have been brought here to prove your worth, the voice continued. The trials you face will determine whether you are truly the hero the prophecy foretold. You will be tested in ways you cannot predict. The sword you seek will only be unlocked by those who can survive what lies ahead. Tested? Alex muttered under his breath, glancing nervously at the walls that seemed to shift with every move he made. I don't know if I'm ready for this. The voice didn't answer. Instead, the floor beneath Alex's feet suddenly began to tremble, and a deep rumbling noise filled the air. The chamber shifted, the stone walls sliding apart to reveal a new path, leading deep into the heart of the temple. A faint, glowing light beckoned him forward. Move forward, Chosen One, the voice commanded. The first trial begins now. Alex hesitated, but only for a moment. There was no turning back now. He had come this far. Swallowing his fear, he took a deep breath and moved forward, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness of the temple. As he approached the glowing light, the air grew colder, and a low, menacing sound filled the chamber. Suddenly, from the shadows, figures began to emerge, creatures unlike anything Alex had ever seen. They were tall, their bodies wrapped in dark, flowing robes that shimmered with a strange, iridescent glow. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their eyes burned with an intense, otherworldly energy. The creatures moved slowly, purposefully, as if they were watching Alex's every move. You must face them, the voice from the temple intoned. They are the guardians of the first trial. Only by defeating them can you proceed. Alex's heart raced. He had no weapons, no training, no experience in battle. How was he supposed to fight these creatures? They were alien, powerful, and seemed to be made of pure energy. He wasn't a fighter. He was a mechanic, just an ordinary man. His palms were sweaty and his legs felt like lead. As the creatures closed in, one of them raised its arm and a pulse of energy shot from its hand, aiming straight for Alex. Without thinking, Alex ducked, narrowly avoiding the blast. His instincts kicked in and he scrambled to his feet looking for an escape. But there was no way out. The creatures were everywhere. "Fight back, Alex," the voice urged. "You must learn to defend yourself." Alex's mind raced. What was he supposed to do? He couldn't win this fight. He wasn't prepared for this. But as the creatures advanced, something inside him snapped. He wasn't going to die here, not without trying. He looked around, searching for anything he could use. And then he saw it, a large piece of debris lying on the floor. It wasn't much, but it was something. He grabbed it, holding it like a makeshift weapon, though he wasn't sure how he was supposed to use it. The first creature lunged at him, its energy blade aimed directly for his chest. Alex swung the piece of debris, blocking the strike with a loud crack. He couldn't believe it. The impact sent a shock through his arm, but he stood his ground. The creature hesitated for a fraction of a second, surprised by Alex's sudden resolve. Alex didn't wait for the creature to strike again. He pushed forward, swinging the debris with all his might. The second blow landed, and the creature staggered back, its energy blade flickering out. But before Alex could catch his breath, the others moved in, their hands crackling with energy. "Focus, Alex," the voice from the temple urged. "Use your inner strength." In that moment, something within Alex shifted. It was as though the weight of the prophecy settled over him, giving him clarity. He wasn't just fighting for his life, he was fighting for the galaxy. For everything he had been chosen to protect. His grip on the debris tightened, and he stood taller, more confident. The creatures closed in, but this time Alex wasn't afraid. He moved with purpose, dodging their strikes and using the debris to block their attacks. Every time they came for him, he reacted faster, his movements growing more fluid. The energy of the trial seemed to seep into him, filling him with strength he never knew he had. One by one, the creatures fell back, defeated by Alex's surprising tenacity. His heart raced, his body exhausted, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Finally, with one last strike, Alex sent the final creature crashing to the ground. The air seemed to still, the buzzing energy around him fading into silence. He stood there, panting, staring down at the fallen creatures. The voice of the temple echoed once more, this time with approval. "You have passed the first trial, Alex. You have shown that you possess the strength to fight, but more importantly, you have shown the will to never give up." Alex's chest heaved as he absorbed the words. He was still in shock. Had he really done it? Was he really capable of this? The glowing light in the chamber brightened, and a new path opened before him. The first trial was over, but the journey was far from finished. With one final glance at the defeated creatures, Alex took a step forward. The sword, the prophecy, the fate of the galaxy, they were all waiting for him. The test of the heart. The temple was quiet now. The eerie hum that had filled the air before had died down, leaving only the sound of Alex's labored breathing. He stood alone amidst the strange creatures he had just defeated, his mind still processing the intensity of the trial. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his muscles sore and trembling from the exertion. Yet, as exhausted as he was, a small spark of something else had ignited within him, a sense of pride, a feeling that he was, perhaps, more than just an ordinary mechanic. The light that had flooded the chamber now faded, casting long, shifting shadows along the walls. As Alex stepped forward, a low voice, calm but insistent, reverberated in the chamber once again. "You have proven yourself in battle, but now you face the true test, the test of the heart." A shiver ran down Alex's spine at the words. He had no idea what that meant, but he knew that this trial was unlike the last. The first trial had been physical, a test of his strength and willpower. This, however, was different. The prophecy had been clear. This was the true measure of a hero. This was the test that would determine whether he was worthy of wielding the sacred sword. Alex's steps echoed as he moved deeper into the temple. The path before him seemed to grow darker, the walls narrowing and the air growing thicker with each step. His eyes strained to see in the dim light, but there was something else, something strange in the very atmosphere that made his heart beat faster. A glowing shape materialized ahead of him, hovering just above the ground. It shimmered like a mirage, slowly coming into focus. It was a figure, but not quite like anything Alex had ever seen before. Its form was humanoid, but translucent, with light pouring from every crack, as if it were made of pure energy. The figure's face was a blur of emotions, shifting with every glance Alex took, as if it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. "Welcome, Alex," the figure said, its voice both soothing and unsettling. "I am the keeper of the heart." Alex stopped in his tracks, confusion creeping into his mind. "The keeper of the heart, what does that mean?" The keeper's glowing eyes fixed on him, and for a brief moment, Alex saw something that startled him, a flicker of sadness in its ethereal gaze. The heart is the core of your being. It is where your true strength lies. You may have proven yourself in battle, but now you must face the deepest parts of who you are. The prophecy demands it. Alex swallowed. I don't understand. The keeper floated closer, its form shifting like liquid light. Every hero must confront the darkness within themselves. Only by understanding the struggles of the heart can one truly wield the power of the sacred sword. If you can face your greatest fears, your deepest doubts, you will gain the strength you need. If not, you will fail. Before Alex could speak, the keeper raised its hand, and the air around him thickened. The walls of the temple seemed to stretch and distort as the ground beneath him began to shift. A strange, cold wind blew through the chamber, and Alex suddenly felt the weight of his thoughts pressing down on him. He staggered backward, a wave of emotions crashing over him. Memories, painful, familiar memories, began to flood his mind. Images of his life on Earth, of his lonely days in the garage, of moments when he had felt powerless and insignificant. He could hear the voices of his family, his friends, his parents' disappointed words echoing in his ears. They had always told him he would never amount to anything. "You'll never be anything more than a mechanic," they had said. The memories continued to bombard him. His failures, his mistakes, the time he had tried and failed to repair a critical piece of machinery, causing an accident that nearly destroyed his reputation. The moments when he had felt utterly alone, even surrounded by people. "You're not a hero, you never will be," his inner voice whispered, growing louder, more insistent. Alex closed his eyes, trying to block it out, but the images only grew stronger. He could see the disappointed looks of everyone who had ever doubted him. The faces of his coworkers, his friends, people who had seen his struggles but never believed he could rise above them. "You're nothing," the voice whispered again, now echoing like a mantra in his head. "The prophecy was a mistake. You don't deserve the power of the sacred sword. You can't even fix a machine, let alone save a galaxy." His chest tightened, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Doubt, fear, and frustration flooded his mind, mixing with the crushing weight of his insecurities. Could it really be true? Was he just an ordinary man, someone who would never be worthy of the prophecy? The keeper's voice broke through his thoughts, soft and firm. "This is your heart, Alex. This is your deepest fear, the fear of being unworthy, the fear of never measuring up. But know this, the sword does not choose the strongest or the most perfect. It chooses the one who can rise above their own doubts, the one who can face their fear and choose hope over despair." Alex's body trembled. The weight of the trial pressed heavily on him. How could he ever hope to be worthy of something so powerful when he felt so broken inside? How could he ever wield a sword capable of saving the galaxy when he couldn't even save himself from his own insecurities? But then something shifted within him, a quiet whisper in the back of his mind. It wasn't a loud declaration, nor a grand epiphany. It was simple, but it carried with it a sense of truth. "I am not my fears." The realization was small, but it began to grow. The doubts, the fears, they didn't define him. He wasn't perfect, but no one was. Heroes weren't chosen because they were flawless. They were chosen because they could overcome their flaws. The prophecy hadn't picked him for his strength. It had chosen him because he had the capacity to change, to learn, and to rise above. "Enough," Alex whispered, his voice stronger now, cutting through the voices of doubt. "I am more than this." The keeper nodded, its expression softening. "Then you are ready, Alex." With that, the temple shifted once again. The darkness lifted, and the path ahead illuminated. The test of the heart had ended. Alex had faced his deepest fears and emerged stronger for it. His heart, though still imperfect, was now filled with the strength of his resolve. The keeper's form began to fade, its final words lingering in the air like a gentle breeze. "You may now proceed. The sacred sword awaits you." Alex stood tall, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. The fear, the doubts had not disappeared, but they no longer held him captive. He was ready. The path to the sword was clear, and with every step, Alex could feel the weight of destiny drawing him forward. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, he was a hero. And the galaxy was about to find out why. The Sword of Fate. Alex's heart raced as he moved deeper into the temple. Each step felt heavier than the last, but it was not the weight of his body that slowed him. It was the growing sense of purpose, a deep understanding that what lay ahead would change everything. The Temple of Prophecy had tested him, challenged him, and now it was time to face the final trial. The path ahead narrowed, and a soft glow from an unknown source illuminated the space. The stone walls around him became more intricate, etched with symbols that seemed to pulse with a quiet rhythm. The air had a strange, magnetic quality, as though the very atmosphere was charged with immense power. Alex could feel it in his bones, a tingling sensation that ran up his spine, as if every part of him was being drawn into something ancient, something greater than he could fully comprehend. At the end of the narrow corridor, there was a grand chamber. The doors, large and imposing, stood before him, adorned with intricate carvings of stars, galaxies, and mysterious otherworldly creatures. The doors seemed to call to him, resonating with a force that made his pulse quicken. This was it. The sacred sword lay beyond these doors, and with it, the fate of the galaxy. Alex's hand trembled as he reached for the door, his fingers brushing the cool, smooth surface. The moment he touched it, the doors groaned to life, slowly opening with a sound like the shifting of worlds. He stepped inside, his breath catching in his throat. The chamber beyond was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. At the center of the room stood a massive pedestal, crafted from a glowing, crystalline material. Upon it rested a sword unlike any weapon he had ever imagined. The blade was long and slender, with an ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from within. Its hilt was adorned with strange symbols, glowing faintly in a language Alex did not understand. The sword seemed to hum with power, vibrating with an energy that filled the room. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. As Alex approached, a soft voice echoed through the chamber, familiar yet distant. "Only the worthy may claim the sword." Alex stopped in his tracks, looking around, trying to find the source of the voice. It was not the keeper this time. This voice was different, calm, but laced with an undeniable authority. His gaze settled on the sword again. It beckoned to him, and yet there was a part of him that hesitated. Was he truly worthy? The doubts, though quieter now, still lingered in the back of his mind. The voice spoke again, more insistent this time. "To wield the sword is to bear the weight of all that is, to carry the hopes of a galaxy on your shoulders, to choose between destruction and salvation. Do you understand the price?" Alex took a deep breath. He didn't know if he truly understood, but he knew that he could not turn back. The prophecy had not chosen him by accident. He had been tested, and he had overcome every challenge that had been placed before him. Now it was time to make a choice. The galaxy needed him. The sword needed him. He stepped forward, his hand trembling as he reached out to grasp the hilt. As his fingers touched it, a surge of energy coursed through him. The room seemed to collapse around him, and for a moment he was weightless, caught between time and space. A vision flooded his mind, a vision of distant stars, of planets torn apart by war, of species on the brink of extinction, all pleading for salvation. The weight of their suffering pressed on him, and Alex felt the burden of their cries in his very soul. His heart raced, and the sword pulsed with an intense, blinding light. The visions grew more intense, showing him the future, a future that depended on his choices. Would he be the hero they needed, or would he be just another failure, another casualty in the war that had plagued the galaxy for centuries? The sword hummed again, as if alive, recognizing his hesitation. "You must decide," the voice whispered. "The sword will choose its master. Will you take the burden upon yourself?" Alex's fingers tightened around the hilt, and the world around him seemed to blur. He could feel the power of the sword flowing through him, coursing through every fiber of his being. The light in the room intensified, and the voice spoke one final time, the words echoing in his mind. "Only those with a heart that understands sacrifice can truly wield the power of the sacred sword. Do you have the strength to give everything for the greater good?" The chamber fell silent. The weight of the question lingered in the air, and Alex found himself standing at a crossroads. The sword's power was overwhelming, but it was also dangerous. The temptation to wield such power was great, but with that power came a price that Alex wasn't sure he was ready to pay. But then he thought of everything that had led him here, the prophecy, the trials, the galaxy's desperate need for salvation. He wasn't just standing there for himself. He was standing there for all those who couldn't stand for themselves. He had faced his doubts, his fears, and now it was time to face the truth. Alex took a deep breath and with steady hands lifted the sword. The light around him flared brightly, blinding him for a moment. The energy of the sword filled him completely, a deep, resonant force that connected him to the very fabric of the galaxy. He could feel the weight of the responsibility, but also the strength that came with it. His heart, though still uncertain at times, was no longer filled with doubt. He was ready. The sword recognized him. With a final surge of power, the sword locked into his grasp, and the room seemed to shift around him. The temple faded into the background as the vastness of the galaxy unfolded before his eyes. He could see the stars, the planets, the endless reaches of space. He could feel the energy of the prophecy humming in the air, now fully realized. The sword had chosen him. The galaxy had chosen him. Alex was no longer just a mechanic. He was the hero of the prophecy. The sacred sword, now his to command, would guide him on the path ahead, and with it, he would fight to protect a galaxy that had lost its way. The fate of everything rested on his shoulders, and Alex was ready to bear it. The echoes of war. With the sacred sword now firmly in Alex's grasp, a surge of power pulsed through him. He felt its energy surge through his veins, like liquid fire igniting every part of him, every cell, every thought. It was as though he had been forged in the fires of the stars themselves. The light from the sword spread outward, illuminating the vast chamber, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across galaxies. But as the initial rush of power faded, the reality of what he had just done settled in. He wasn't just holding a weapon, he was carrying the weight of an entire galaxy on his shoulders. The prophecy was no longer just a tale, its meaning was clear. This was the beginning of something far greater, something far more dangerous. The temple, now silent, seemed to hold its breath. The air had shifted, the atmosphere thick with expectation. Alex stood alone in the center of the room, but he felt the presence of others, the millions of lives that depended on the choices he would make. The weight of their hopes, their prayers, pressed in on him from all sides. He looked down at the sword, its blade glowing softly in his hands, the ancient symbols etched into the hilt almost seeming to shift with his thoughts. He could feel the presence of those who had wielded it before him, warriors, kings, heroes, and their legacy was now intertwined with his own. Their struggles, their sacrifices, lived on in the blade. But as powerful as the sword was, Alex knew it was not invincible. The galaxy was not in its final moments because of a lack of strength. No, it was fractured because of something far deeper, the fractured hearts of those who ruled it. The wars between planets, the political scheming, the betrayals, all of it had shattered the peace that once existed. He could feel the echoes of these conflicts in the very air around him. Alex, the voice from the temple echoed again, this time softer, almost mournful. You have claimed the sword, but it is not enough to wield it. You must understand its true power, the power to heal and destroy. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Alex stood still for a moment, absorbing their meaning. The sword was not just a weapon. It was a tool that could either mend the galaxy or tear it apart. He could feel the pull of both paths before him, each one marked by untold consequences. The weight of the decision was overwhelming. He could already see the faces of those who had fallen in the wars, those who had fought for something they believed in, only to be crushed by the very system they sought to save. Could he make a difference? Could one man really change the fate of an entire galaxy? But then a thought flashed across his mind. I am not alone. He wasn't the only one in the universe with the desire to see peace restored. There were others who had been fighting for far longer, for far more than just their own survival. Alex thought of the countless rebellions that had risen, the leaders who had been forgotten in the wake of tyranny, the soldiers who had fallen without names. Their sacrifices hadn't been in vain. He was carrying their hopes, too. They had set the stage for this moment, and now he had to finish what they had started. His resolve hardened. Turning from the pedestal, Alex stepped away from the sword for the first time since claiming it. The air around him shifted once more, and a swirling vortex of light began to form in front of him. The image of a vast battlefield appeared, a war that spanned across planets, with fleets of starships clashing against each other, streaks of light flashing in every direction. The screams of combat and the thunder of cannons echoed through the chamber. But it wasn't just a vision of destruction. As Alex focused, he began to see the other side of the coin, visions of hope. He saw people standing together, their hands raised in unity, as a wave of peace began to wash over the war-torn worlds. New alliances were formed, broken systems were rebuilt, and ancient wounds began to heal. The sword, he realized, was not meant to destroy, it was meant to guide. The battles ahead would not be fought with brute force alone. They would be fought with wisdom, with compassion, and with the strength of an unyielding will. The sword would show him the way forward, but it was up to him to decide how to wield it. The vision shifted again, this time showing a lone figure standing in the center of a ruined world. The figure was holding a broken weapon, their shoulders slumped in defeat. But despite the destruction, there was a glimmer of hope in their eyes, a hope that had not been extinguished. Alex saw himself in that figure. He understood their pain. They had failed before, but they had not given up. The figure turned and Alex saw the face, his face. It was a reflection of everything he feared, the fear of being too late, the fear of not being enough. But it was also a reflection of his own potential. This was the crossroads. This was where he chose to either embrace the weight of the galaxy or shrink from it. Alex stepped forward again, feeling the power of the sword surge in response. He had made his decision. The galaxy needed something more than just a warrior, it needed a symbol. A leader who would inspire change, who would fight for justice and peace, no matter the cost. As the vision faded, Alex found himself once again standing at the center of the temple. The sword, now burning with a brilliant light, felt even more alive in his hands. It was as if the universe itself was watching him, waiting for him to make his move. With a deep breath, Alex turned toward the path that lay ahead. The galaxy was waiting, and he was ready to answer the call. The prophecy had not chosen him because he was the strongest or the bravest. It had chosen him because he had the heart to face what no one else could. He had come to this place alone, but he would not walk the path ahead alone. There were allies waiting for him, allies who shared his vision, his dream of a united galaxy. And together, they would make the prophecy a reality. Alex clenched the sword tightly, his heart steady, his mind clear. The war was not over yet, but the first steps toward peace had just begun. The galaxy would feel the echoes of his actions, and the stars themselves would never be the same. The dawn of unity. The sword's energy thrummed steadily in Alex's grip as he turned and exited the grand chamber. The glow of the sacred sword illuminated the path before him, but beyond that, the shadows of the temple stretched out endlessly, as if guarding the mysteries of what lay ahead. The sword had chosen him. Now it was time to choose the galaxy. Outside the temple, the sky was a deep purple, with stars scattered across it like jewels embedded in velvet. The landscape before him was unfamiliar, alien terrain stretching as far as the eye could see. Towering mountains, vast deserts, and lush forests stretched to the horizon, their beauty untouched by the ravages of war. The temple was high in the mountains, far from the battles that raged across the galaxies, but Alex knew he could not remain in isolation forever. The galaxy needed him, and it needed him now. The sword pulsed in his hand once again, reminding him that he wasn't just holding a weapon, he was holding a key. It was the key to peace, but also to the future, if he could unlock its true power. The prophecy had never been about a single victory. It was about a series of choices, decisions that would shape the path of civilizations. He was not just a man. He was the embodiment of an entire era's hope. But even as his thoughts turned to the path ahead, doubts crept into his mind. He could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him, heavier than the sword in his grip. The galaxy wasn't just divided by war. It was divided by ideologies, by old grudges, and by a deep mistrust that ran through every faction. He couldn't simply wield the sword and expect everything to fall into place. The healing would not be instantaneous. But the sword had shown him a glimpse of a new path, one where unity, not conflict, could reign. Alex reached out with his senses, drawing upon the ancient power of the sword, and he felt the threads of the galaxy tugging at him, faint but strong. The political leaders, the rebels, the warriors, the civilians, all of them were waiting for something. They were waiting for a signal that change was possible. He could feel their collective longing. They wanted peace, but they didn't know how to achieve it. He closed his eyes and let the sword's energy flow through him, letting it sharpen his focus. He had seen it, the glimmer of hope in the distant worlds. He could be the catalyst, the symbol they all needed. But it would take more than strength. It would take diplomacy, strategy, and perhaps most difficult of all, patience. He would need to unite people who had been fighting for generations, and that would require more than just the power of the sword. It would require the strength of his convictions. Opening his eyes, he felt a calm resolve settle over him. The prophecy was not just about wielding power, it was about wielding influence. The true test of his strength would not come from battles fought on the front lines, it would come from the way he chose to lead, and he would lead by example. His first steps off the temple grounds were hesitant, as if the land itself was assessing him, testing his readiness. The landscape around him seemed to shift, as if recognizing the shift in Alex's resolve. The path ahead was not simple, it was fraught with uncertainty. But the sword in his hand was more than just a beacon, it was a promise that he would forge a new future for the galaxy. He knew where he needed to go first, the coalition of planets, the most powerful faction in the galaxy, but also the most divided. The coalition's leaders were entrenched in politics, constantly at odds over how to maintain control, but there were whispers, whispers of a movement rising from the heart of their citadel, of a new hope for peace that could bring the factions together. If he could reach them, he could set the wheels of change in motion. If he failed, however, the galaxy would remain locked in its endless cycle of war. As Alex began his journey toward the Coalition, his mind wandered back to the vision he had seen earlier in the temple. The image of the lone figure, broken but unyielding, had stuck with him. That figure had been him, he had seen it clearly. But in that image, he had also seen the way forward. Even in the face of defeat, there was always the choice to rise again, to rebuild, to strive for something greater than what had come before. That was the essence of the prophecy. No matter how dark the path, there was always a way forward, always a chance for redemption. His ship, a small but sturdy vessel he had commandeered from the outer rim of the galaxy, hummed softly as it lifted off the ground, its engines sputtering to life. He looked back at the towering temple one last time before jumping into the vast expanse of space. The stars stretched out before him, infinite and endless. The galaxy was a place of untold beauty and untold pain. It was both a battlefield and a place of potential. The journey to the Coalition was long, but it gave Alex time to think. He thought about the people he would meet, the enemies he would face, and the decisions he would have to make. He thought about the sword, its power, and its weight. It was clear that it was not just a weapon, it was a symbol, a catalyst that could spark change. It would not make the decisions for him, it would guide him, but the choices were still his to make. As he approached the Coalition's stronghold, the lights of the citadel flickered on the horizon, a beacon of hope and power. He could feel the pull of the place as if it was calling him, testing his resolve. He had arrived. The Coalition had been at the heart of the galaxy's power for centuries, but it had fractured over time, divided by old ideologies and struggles for control. They had fallen into corruption, too consumed with their own politics to see the suffering of the galaxy's people. But now, Alex was here. He was not the politician nor the diplomat, but he was something more, a symbol of change. He had the sword, the key to the galaxy's future. The time had come for him to step into the light to make the first move toward healing. The galaxy's eyes were on him. The choices he made would define the future. But in this moment, as the ship descended toward the Coalition's capital, Alex realized something crucial. The future was not written in the stars. It was written in the hearts of the people, and it was up to him to awaken that hope. He would unite the galaxy, not with force, but with the power of unity, compassion, and the wisdom to see beyond the divisions that had plagued it for so long. And so, with the sacred sword in hand, Alex prepared to meet the leaders of the Coalition. He wasn't just walking into a room of politicians and soldiers. He was walking into the very heart of the galaxy's future. The dawn of a new era was beginning. And Alex would be its architect.